Now, sometimes secret societies are forced to do really bad things because they're often in competition with each other. And in this competition, it's always a question of like, who's more evil, okay? So what they figured out is this. They figured out how to structure their secret societies, okay? This hierarchy. Sorry, hierarchy. Okay, so these are the people at the top, the landlords. And these are basically the initiates, okay? The people who want to join. But they are ignorant about the true purpose of the secret society. So the question then is, how do you maintain this hierarchy? And what they figure out is something really, really simple, all right? It's really simple human psychology. Throughout human history, what was very common was for groups of young men, okay, they've been discarded by their families because the families don't have enough to eat, so they get together and they form like wolf packs. They go around, and what they really want is a wife. Okay, that's what they really want. More than food, they want a wife. So what they're forced to do is go as a group, as a gang, go to a village and kidnap a woman and kill the family, okay? And this is a very common thing in human history. And let's try to figure out the psychology of what's going on. Okay, so you have like 5 guys. This is just a thought experiment. Okay, 5 guys, young guys, and they're gonna go to a village where there's a family. Okay, a husband, a wife, and 2 kids. What they're gonna do, of course, is they're obviously gonna kill the husband, and they're also gonna kill the 2 children. Okay, and they're gonna kidnap the wife. Now let me ask you this question. Let's understand the psychology of this woman when her entire life is destroyed, okay? Does she, A, want vengeance? B, become depressed? C, fall in love with one of the guys? A, B, or C, guys? A, B, or C? Yeah, what is that? A. Okay, you guys would think she would want vengeance for what has happened, but that's not what happens, okay? It's more likely that she becomes depressed or she falls in love. It's often at times that she falls in love. We call this a Stockholm syndrome. All right, it's a very basic human psychology that is consistent throughout human history, throughout all societies. When a woman sees her entire life collapse like that, she has no longer any stability. Her reality is destroyed. And therefore, she clings to anyone who is willing to support her, even though that person is the same person who destroyed her life in the first place. It's really weird psychology, but it's very, very true. That's also why arranged marriages work, okay? Throughout human society, older man is often paired with a younger wife. She might be like 14 or 13. But, you know, after a few years, they do fall in love with each other because the woman is completely dependent on the man. Okay, and also that physical intimacy. All right, so it sounds really depressing, but this is a very basic principle of human psychology. Because at this point in history, when her reality has collapsed, her soul has left her, okay? And now she's basically a slave. And what a slave does is someone who clings to life. All right, does that make sense? Okay. Now, what happens to these 5 guys, okay? A, do they feel guilty for what they do? B, do they fight over the woman? Or C, are they brothers forever? The obvious answer is C, right? They're brothers forever, okay? So even though they've committed this terrible, terrible act, right, it's made them more unified, okay? And this is a structure of secret societies. The structure of secret societies is for the people at the very top to commit these rituals of torture in order to turn the initiates into slaves. And those who are most willing to participate in these rituals, those who are most willing to become slaves, become the middle people, okay? The people that are most trusted, because now they're slaves. And that's how secret societies work. And that's why there are so many different degrees to secret societies. And that's why at the very top, no one knows what they're really doing. What they're really doing is praying to Satan, okay? Because Satan is giving them strength, or Saturn, who knows, okay? Or whatever. Saturn or Satan is given the strength in order to torture these initiates, so these initiates become their slaves for life. And then these initiates are given limitless wealth and power because they are now completely loyal, dependent on the master. All right? All right. All right, this sounds confusing, but let's use another example. All right, so Spartans. Sparta. So Sparta, remember, Sparta is a war society, a militaristic society that is intent on maintaining control over its slaves, okay, the helots. And the helots outnumber the Spartans 10-1. So these Spartans need to be really cohesive as a society. They need to fight and die for each other. So their education system is like this. At 5 or 6, the Spartan child is taken away from the parents, okay? And this obviously creates fear and anxiety. All right? Also, what happens is the child is in school beaten up by the older kids, and this creates trauma, all right? Another word we use for this is intergenerational trauma, because the Spartans do this to every child, intergenerational trauma. All right, so the kid at this point is unsafe, insecure. His mind is really screwed up. And then when he's most vulnerable, maybe when he's 11 or 12, what happens now is he's paired with an older man who's like 29 or 30. Okay, an older man. And this older man, they become lovers. Basically what happens is the man first, of course, commits, sexual abuse. But again, because the child is traumatized, because the child has no bearings, no reality, doesn't believe anyone in this world loves him, even though the man is being abusive to him, he falls in love with the man. And as a result, the boy will do anything that the man orders him to do, okay? So what happens is this man becomes his general, and he becomes a soldier or an officer. And that's why the Spartans are so fearless. Okay, because the soldiers are completely loyal to the generals because they were once lovers. The soldier feels as though this general, who I must obey, he saved my life when I most needed it, when my parents abandoned me, when I was being beat up every day, when I felt complete insecurity, when I was traumatized. He came and he gave me a home, and therefore I must die for him. Okay? And guys, look, listen, this sounds weird, but if you go to the inner city gangs in America or anywhere in the world, okay, these drug cartels in Mexico, they use the same principles as the Spartans. Okay, these young boys, 13, 14, they have no fathers. So put in a gang, they're abused, and then the gang leader treats them well. They might have some, sex, and then these boys are completely loyal to their gang leaders. Same thing if you go to these child armies in Africa. Okay, very basic principle that every human understands. If you abuse a child and then be nice to that child is obedient to you forever. This is how secret societies behave.